Okay, I'd love to welcome everyone here today to the next in the iSpring Leadership Series. And my name is Phyllis Kerr, and I'll be hosting this on behalf of iSpring today. And I am very happy to welcome Brenda Enders into our interview spot today. And we'll be discussing all sorts of things inside of e-learning, mobile learning, gamification, that whole space. And we're going to have spotlight Brenda and what she's doing and what she's thinking about many of these things. And then we'll have time for questions at the end. And I just want to remind people the way you ask a question is it's /Q, and then you type your question, and it will put it into my left column, whichever way left is on Blab. It's always the opposite from what you think it is. And I can pull the questions up, and then Brenda can answer them. So keep that in mind as we go along. And so, and also make sure you share the tweets and the posts on Facebook so we get more people into the conversation. So Brenda, thank you for being here.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about being here today.
All right. So now I'd just like to start with what's exciting in your world right now? What is the thing that you're reading about or designing, or what's really making you really happy about your industry right now?
You know, I really think that this is a turning point for our industry. So historically, with the rollout of new technology, our industry has always looked at it as a means to deploy, your existing content. So you have an existing ILT course. We go to e-learning, and what are we going to do with it? We're going to take your ILT course and we're going to morph it over to an e-learning base for it. Video, you take your existing courses, you morph them over into the video format for it. But now I think it's really an opportunity for us for the first time to be able to leverage technology for unique benefits within the organization and truly having a business impact. So that could be being able to provide low-cost ready refreshers to your students after they've finished an e-learning course. So the strategic objective there really is to, increase or to transition from short-term memory into a long-term memory point. So, it's really an opportunity for our industry to stop thinking about courses and to think about what can we do? Where are the weaknesses at? How can we blend these technologies together and really be able to make a true impact from a business perspective?
That's great. So it's very interesting. I used to be an educator. I taught for a long time, and I still consider myself an educator. And even in my industry, there's a lot of online learning portals and courses and stuff. But it's that understanding of how a person learns that's really vital in all this. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. And, I really think the way people are learning, we used to talk about learning styles and whether you're auditory or kinesthetic, et cetera. But today, I think it's really more about how we have this immediate need for information and knowledge, and it's at our fingertips for it. So it's really, a quick Google away, and that once you have Chrome installed, and that, but it's immediate access, and it's not necessarily for us to go to long-term retention point. It's to solve an immediate problem at this moment in time, and we have no patience. And that YouTube has ruined us for it in the training industry. It's fabulous, but you have this need, and all of a sudden you just go out to YouTube and how do I fix a hot water heater? I have no clue, but I can watch a couple movies, very short, very targeted, and I can go out and I can replace this hot water heater allegedly.
Have you tried that? Yes.
Actually, my husband and I have tried that, and it was kind of Three Stooges-like, but at the end of the day, we were able to do it.
Oh my goodness. So what if instead you had a online learning portal that taught you this in a way that you knew was correct? Because that is a problem with YouTube, is there's the only way something is correct or usable is by the consumer, the user interface ranking system, right?
You betcha. And again, it's all about the context. So how I search for things might be a slightly different spin on how somebody else has searched and tagged the information. I think a learning portal is great for the tagging component, but again, kind of going into what excites me, it would excite me if I could hold my mobile phone over the hot water heater and it would scan it And it
Right.
would then, bring up 4 or 5 choices for me. What do you want to do? Do you want to clean it? Do you want to increase the temperature or lower the temperature? Do you need to change it? And then based upon those options right there, at that immediate moment in time, I have what I need. I solve my problem and I move forward. And in a workplace concept, that's incredibly powerful.
Right. And they have the technology to do this. I know this because I'm going to share something with you on my arm. And what I have on my arm is a temporary tattoo that's associated with an app for little kids.
Okay.
And when the app turns on the camera and focuses on the tattoo, it pulls up a 3D animated thing that I can then take the phone and put anywhere and have this whole interaction through the camera lens so that you can put the little thing, whatever it is, on someone's head or in their hand or on a table. So taking your hot water thing, if you took your phone and held it over your hot water heater, and then it pulled up things that were appropriate for that, then you could then take the phone and put it where you need it and be able to see the whole thing in 3D through the camera lens. It's a brilliant idea, and we already have the beginnings of that, right?
We absolutely do. I mean, the technology is there. Augmented reality is really the way in which you're accomplishing that, and it allows your camera lens to be able to see the world as you would and make decisions based upon what we're seeing in there. So it's a fairly simple technology that anybody could leverage. Erasma is a free tool that's out there, and as long as you don't want it packaged up in an app, you can create your own auras and have your own internal team create some augmented reality. There's other tools that are out there as well, but I love to make reference to free tools whenever possible.
Right. So what's your take on this, just as a really quick aside, quick aside, this whole new thing of virtual reality social media interfaces? I think it was called V-Time, V-Space, V-something, V-Book, something.
I think it could be very cool, and that virtual worlds can be a fun place to go and play and to be able to explore things and to learn in a safe place. I think it's, to an extent, fairly new, and that the military has been using the virtual worlds for quite a while, and they have discs that they can hop on, the military folks, and be able to feel as if they're in Iraq or walking down actual street, and they have special military equipment, the guns and stuff, and they interact with them. They're just on these discs on the floor. So, it's expensive, but it has some great, ability to generate teamwork. And I think that's really kind of one of the strengths of that medium, is to be able to work together as teams in whether it's a true real life or a pseudo real life, or to be able to combine these elements together. So we create an alternate reality game that leverages augmented reality at the same time, and start to pull these things together so people have an opportunity to practice in a safe environment and to be able to collaborate and learn from our peers at the same time.
So what industry do you think is going to pick up on this the fastest? What do you think is going to be? What do you wish would be the fastest?
So there's
industry.
Healthcare. They're always the early adopters. Or it's, this isn't industry based, but sales. And so it gets into more role-based versus industry. Anybody that's on the move, that's out there, that has information. A new area that I think that our L&D departments also need to think about is getting the educational pieces out to the actual consumers. So we're bypassing potentially your sales force and getting to the people that are actually making the decision at that moment in time that they're doing the purchasing. So that's kind of another trend that I'm seeing moving forward.
Right. So now, in terms of the gamification aspect of this whole world and industry, and where we started in the beginning with the question of, where we are with all of this and how it could possibly transform education very soon, where do you see that's going to show up? Does that come from younger children education? Does it start with the way things are doing in the universities and with their digital components and online components? Where do you see that starting?
So I see it starting in a couple places. First, the younger generation demands and expects that our businesses and academia will be leveraging technology in the appropriate use cases. So an appropriate use case is not to take your existing e-learning course and port it over just, responsive design so you can view it on that device, but rather more the examples and use cases that we've been talking about. So they demand that. They need instantaneous knowledge. But as an organization, I really do think that L&D divisions need to kind of take the bull by the horns and throughout the organization be the advocates. And when folks come to us and say, we need to create a course on X, Y, and Z, we need to stop and say, no, we don't even know if you need a course. You know, maybe part of it is a course, but part of it's refresher, part of it's on-the-job performance support, part of it's social learning. Maybe we get some micro games or mini games to be able to allow our learners to be able to practice in a safe and engaging collaborative environment. The gamification component specifically, I really do think that that's driven from the younger generation and the passion that we have. Now, when I talk younger generation in that case, it's not the teenagers. It's really folks, and I love this. I just said that I'm in the younger generation. It's really it's middle age. And folks, it's the folks that grew up with the Ataris back in the days for it. You know, the kids today, they game all the time. But for us, when we start talking about games, it brings back these childhood memories that we have. And so they're like, oh yeah, that's a lot of fun. Well, they can also be incredibly powerful, or the elements of them can be incredibly powerful to deliver training and performance support. So I kind of think that younger generation is really the, you know, middle age generation is pushing it. The millennials and the Zs are expecting it. Right. And allegedly, they make decisions on employers based upon, you know, how they're leveraging technology to provide, you know, the education. I'm not quite sure I'm 100% bought into that. I'm sure it's a component, but, you know.
It sounds like there needs to be a layer of industry of people who are versed in how to create this. So where does that draw from, and who are those people?
So, you know, I really think it's a new mindset. So we need to take a look from an instructional design perspective. It's not necessarily new learning theories, but it's the ability to apply them and with the technology we have today and things we haven't thought about. So scaffolding from an ID perspective, been around for years and years and years, decades. However, games are built based upon scaffolding. Our learning courses are built based upon scaffolding. So we need to break it down into another use case of how we apply it, kind of get out of that routine. On the game side, you know, I think there's some great folks that are out there. Aldrich Clark, Carl Kopp is another one. The eLearning Guild has recently released a curation of some articles. One of my articles is actually in that particular book. And I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. The Art and Science of Gamification for it.
There we go.
It's a free
Art
ebook.
And Science good. We should go and look that one up. So if someone wants to go look that up, they can take a look at that. So we have a couple of questions over here, except they all have to do with my tattoo app, which is funny. You must have kids. But what I'd really like is if someone has some questions about this whole arena and this whole industry that we're talking about right now. Again, what you do is you /Q, then type your question, and that'll throw it over to one of the sides of my screen, and then I can pull it up, and then Brenda can answer it. So if there's something like that, we'll put those in there. And then if someone really has a great need to talk, I can open up a seat and we can come in and you can talk about this field. So I think there is someone in there who really wants to talk to us. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I know who this is. Is it D Sundust 55? Do you have something you really want to say? If you do, I can very happy to put you in. All right, so we have a couple of questions, and I'm going to put the question over here. And And now you see the question. So from Wesley, what are good examples of short courses available that use gamification?
Sure. So one example that immediately pops to the forefront of my mind is a solution that was created for Lowe's, which is a big box store. And really, we created 6 mini games. And the intent was to give the associates the opportunity to practice and become familiar within all the Lowe's stores. They all have the same layout for them. So for example, they were able to go inside of the appliance department inside of a virtual game developed in Unity and actually be able to go inside, open up all the appliance areas, become familiar with the appliances inside of the store. They could take on the role for a day of a particular manager, so they could get an understanding of what it's like to play the manager. Safety issues in the store. So they're going through a mini game, and all of a sudden they have to identify as they're walking down the aisles of the store, that there's some ladders that are up above, and they're hanging precariously, and it's a danger for them. If they don't identify, they come tumbling down on them, they get hurt.
It must make it very strange for them when they actually do walk through Lowe's and nothing's like jumping out at the shelves at them.
Absolutely.
So that's great. So I have a couple more really good questions. I'm going to thank you, Wesley, for that one. Let's do. Here we go. Where did it go? Okay, so this one's from Gina, and it says, what was the free AR app Brenda mentioned in the beginning?
So it's Aurasma. That's AURASMA.
One more time?
Now I'm forgetting it. Hang on just one second. AURASMA. So it's Aurasma.
Aurasma.
There you go.
All right. And they pronounce it Aurasma?
Yes.
Okay. And thank you, PMGNT, for putting the link there for us. Thank you very much. All right. Are there other questions? Let's take a look. We've got that one. We've answered that one. I'll talk about the free tattoo at the end, at the tattoo on my arm. Here we go. Here's a question from Sandy. And she or he asks, is there a place where we can get a list of different tools and apps that are free in this arena?
I don't know of one particular one-stop shop for that. I do know in the report that I wrote for the eLearning Guild, I made a list of some free tools that were available for gamification. In the mobile area, you may want to look on the eLearning Guild's website. They normally have a session like 20 top free tools, and that under the mLearn conference, so Mobile Learning Conference. Ultimately in the mLearning space, a lot of times you're looking to be able to generate HTML, unless you're using things such as people forget about text messaging. So it's a great tool. It's something that's, we're accustomed to. In that case, we simply need the text messaging server and an engine, and, we're just coding it back and forth.
Great. So I have another question here. It says, here we go. From CMKG, Catman Knowledge, is that what that is? How do we start to evolve our e-learning that we sell as part of our blended learning solutions? And that's Greek to me. So you'll get to answer this one. And actually, Catman Knowledge is over in the chat column with some other things that they've texted there. So maybe that will help you answer that one.
Sure. Hang on just one second while I'm reading something here. Okay, so if you're really looking at being able to incorporate gamification, there looks like your iSpring customers. Do you guys have variables inside of iSpring that allow you to save the actual point data or generate leaderboards by chance?
That would be a question for Gina. I think that she has more technical knowledge about the iSpring product than I do. I'm
So that would be one option, is that, if
okay.
iSpring had that inside of the tool, that we could actually leverage that. Another thing you can do, though, is you can take the data from inside of iSpring and have it exported out. So before XAPI was ever around, we used to write variables and then create external databases and then publish it on a web page. Now, if you're looking to incorporate something like digital badges, you can just tie it into that program and generate a website right there, or have them automatically sent to somebody's email or Twitter or Facebook account.
There you go. That makes sense. All right. So now let's go look over here and see if we have, hang on. Here we go. And should we be asking our LMS provider or authoring to provide this? I would think yes. Is that a yes?
I would say yes, but I mean, the one thing about gamification, it can be done really poorly, really easily. And so you really do need to have some sense of a game design background to be able to implement it effectively. And it can do more damage than it can do good if it's, used incorrectly. So if you're just tying in some points, they're not meaningful. You have badges that really, again, aren't meaningful, and leaderboards that, are measuring the points and not going back to your actual learning objectives, you're going to have some problems inside of it. It's short-term engagement. And so it's really about architecting a solution. And some of the elements you don't have to have technology for. So like storytelling and being able to package your course materials in stories rather than PowerPoint slides. Having a group of characters. And, all stories have some sort of storyline. There's characters that you're interacting with in some way, shape, or form. So these are things you can do and leverage that have nothing to do with technology components. Putting timers inside of the actual simulations can be very effective as well.
Right. It's very, very good. All right. So we're trying to keep this to 30 minutes. We have a few minutes left. I'd like to invite someone, if they would like to join us in the seat, to ask Brenda any questions on screen or on live. I have a seat open and you can join the call, it's called. And you're very welcome to come in. This is what makes a blab a blab. And so let's see if we can get someone to come in. And yes, we will. Wesley, you're very welcome to join us. Hello, Wesley.
Well, hello. How are you all?
Good, good, good. So you have a question for Brenda?
Yeah, you've talked a little bit about badges, and I've played a little bit with badges, but you also mentioned it's a kind of a pitfall. What advice do you have for folks who want to integrate badges to not fall in that trap and do it poorly? Because like you said, it seems to be easy to do that.
Absolutely. So the first thing is they need to be meaningful, both visually and from a point of intrinsic behavior. When I earn it, I want to have something that triggers other than just the badge. So I want to be able to do better in my job because of a caring of, doing high quality work or something like that. A badging program that's been done extremely well would be the Boy Scouts of America for it, or either any of the scouting programs for it. They create challenges that have multiple levels to be able to attain it. And they take it both from a point of badges to actual challenges. So badges are something that you're earning based upon performance in a course or how well you're doing inside of the course potentially. Challenges would be separate outside activities or a group of courses or, badge programs kind of articulated together for it. So you need to be able to make it varied in the complexity. So some things easy, some things difficult, and really start tying it into the outside world. So it's just not about a digital badge. It's about something that hopefully is going to tie intrinsically with the person that's, earning it. Does that help?
It does. It sounds kind of like you need a storyboard, as far as tracking these different things and layering these things. Do you have a tool, or you mentioned the art and science of gamification? What do you recommend as far as the writing when we're going to try to imagine before even coding what those different pieces might be?
So what I do is I do a basic flow chart for it. So we're actually flowing out what the game is. So you're basically prototyping the experience of a game component. Or some folks will do it in a storyboarding tool, but I personally think it's a little bit too much effort. You know, I can do it with some nice quick boxes, start to associate point structures, and then you play through it, which sounds silly that you're playing through something that's, you know, maybe you've just mocked up on a piece of paper, but it helps to be able to reinforce that you're actually rewarding the correct behavior. So you need to play through it as well. There are some tools that are out there. Most folks just adapt either their storyboards or do a flowcharting component to it. I have not found in a book yet where they're actually showing you the game design templates converted over for the L&D field. Part of it, I think, is just IP and, you know, to give vendors kind of a step up for it.
Right.
There you go.
Awesome. Thanks.
Well,
sure.
Thank you very much, Wesley, for joining our blab and asking questions. And I have a seat open now. If someone would like to come in and ask a question, we'll go for another 3 minutes and then we'll close it up and let everyone get on with their day. So is there someone? There is another question over here. Unless someone wants to join in, we'll go ahead and throw this question in real quick. Can you just talked about this and he wants to clarify what you were saying with this. Can you distinguish in stories from in PowerPoint?
In stories,
To be able to create the experience through stories instead of through PowerPoint. I think that was.
Oh, sure. So, you know, really it's being able to write a story that has kind of that beginning component to it. You've got your characters inside of it. And ultimately there needs to be some sort of tension that takes place within the story for it to kind of come to this climax, and then you've got a solution to it. In PowerPoints, typically, you know, we're just listing these bullet points. There's not an outside story that we can remember for it. When we go to pull and remember information, it's like going to my, you know, file cabinet behind me. There's some level of organization, allegedly, and I can pull from it. The story is that trigger that helps me pull or what I have it organized under, and also allows me to apply the context of what that hitting meaning is. So it's a technique that helps you increase your retention.
Great. So hopefully that answered your question, PM New Gen Thinking. And is there someone who'd like to join on? We could spend all day with this. This is a fabulous topic. I really enjoy the topic, and we could really dive into it. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today and you know, giving us your expertise in this field. And on behalf of iSpring, I would like to thank you very much and to thank everyone for joining. And remember, this is recorded, and so people come back and see this anytime they want. They use the same link that you have here. And the last thing I want to do is to tweet this one more time. And the reason I want to tweet it one more time is that, Brenda, you need to do something with your hand or your head. There you go, and wave. Because when you tell a little bird on Twitter, it records a GIF, so that when it's done, we will be on Twitter moving our heads and looking quite ridiculous.
Oh, lovely!
And it's always so much fun.
Lovely.
So you can go look for that one later, and that was my parting gift to you.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining. And we'll have another leadership series in about a month, and you're all welcome to come back. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.